People like you should not even be allowed to touch a car like this." The words hit the air like a slap. Every voice in the dealership died at once. Mark Henderson's tone carried the kind of certainty that only arrogance can buy. He stood tall in his burgundy suit, gold watch catching the light, jabbing a finger toward the black woman in front of him as if she were a stain on the floor. "Step back," he barked, loud enough for every customer to hear. "This area is for paying clients, not window shoppers from the wrong side of town." The insult hung there raw, naked, heavy. One of the guards shifted awkwardly, unsure whether to move. The other just stared, waiting for orders. Naomi Reed did not blink. She stood in her pale pink hoodie, calm as a loaded spring. Around them, the scent of new leather and engine polish thickened with tension. People whispered, phones lifted, eyes widened. "Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we are glad you are here. Now, back to Naomi." "Security," Mark snapped again, pointing like he owned gravity itself. "Remove her before she scratches something she cannot afford." His voice cracked slightly at the end, not from fear, but from the thrill of having an audience. A white woman near the reception desk gasped under her breath. A young black trainee at the counter froze, phone trembling in her hand. The guard stepped forward, hand hovering inches from Naomi's arm. Naomi did not move. Her silence pressed harder than any protest. Her eyes fixed on Mark's, steady and unblinking, as if measuring the exact moment when ignorance crosses into cruelty. Mark smirked, mistaking control for authority. "You think standing there quiet makes you important? You people come in dressed like that, thinking the rules do not apply. You want to see real power? Look around, this is what it looks like." The line landed like poison. A man in a blazer muttered, "That's too far." Another whispered, "Is he serious?" The tension in the room turned visible, like static before lightning. Naomi finally exhaled, slow and deliberate. She looked past Mark, past the guards, to the reflection of herself in the chrome of the car behind him. What she saw there was not humiliation, it was restraint. She had walked into this place not to buy a car, but to take its temperature, to see how her own staff treated someone who looked like her without the armor of status. And now she knew. The guard's hand twitched again, ready to act. But Naomi spoke first, her voice calm enough to slice through the noise. "You should be very careful," she said. "You are about to lose more than your job." Mark laughed, short and sharp. "Lady, the only thing I am losing is patience." But what he did not know, what no one in that room yet understood, was that patience was the very thing Naomi Reed owned in full. And when it broke, so would everything he thought made him untouchable. Naomi Reed had built her empire on silence that spoke louder than shouting. She had learned early that the calmest person in the room usually held the most power. But even now, standing in the middle of a showroom she technically owned, she felt that old sting return, the same one she thought she had buried years ago. Mark Henderson stood less than 3 feet away, red in the face, convinced his words carried weight. "You people always think you can walk in anywhere," he said, voice dripping with disdain. "Go find a used lot that matches your budget." The words were meant to humiliate, to strip dignity in front of strangers. They did not. They only exposed him. Naomi had chosen to come here dressed simply. No luxury brands, no chauffeur, no entourage. It was her quiet test, something she did every quarter without announcement. She wanted to see if the people running her dealerships understood the difference between serving customers and sizing them up. Clearly, they did not. One of the guards shifted again. "Ma'am, maybe you should step outside," he said gently, but his eyes betrayed discomfort. He knew something was off. The way she stood, steady and deliberate, did not match the picture Mark was painting. She did not look like a thief or a nuisance. She looked like someone measuring every second of this moment. Across the room, a young black employee named Lena whispered to another salesman, "He does not even know who she is." The other man shook his head, whispering back, "Then he is about to find out." Mark turned on them. "What are you two whispering about? Get back to work." His voice cracked through the tension. "If she is not gone in the next minute, both of you can clock out for good." Naomi finally spoke, her tone quiet but clear. "So, this is how you treat your guests." She did not raise her voice. The stillness around her carried it farther than volume could. "You assume, you insult, and then you hide behind policy. Mark scoffed. Guests? You walked in here dressed like that and expected what exactly, red carpet service? Her eyes narrowed just slightly. Respect, she said. That is what I expected. The same thing every paying customer deserves. A hush fell over the showroom. Phones recorded every word. Even the hum of air conditioning seemed to pause. For a brief second, no one moved. Then a man near the door muttered, "This is not going to end well for him." Naomi's mind flicked back to 20 years earlier, to a small dealership in Alabama where she had been told the same thing by another man in another suit. Back then, she had walked away, humiliated and angry. That night, she promised herself that one day, she would own places like this and change the way people were treated inside them. Today was the day that promise came due. Naomi reached into her pocket, pulling out a slim black phone. She did not raise it like a weapon, only tapped the screen once. A quiet chime echoed. A woman's voice came through the speaker, calm and professional. Protocol 7 activated. Compliance system live. Audio and video capture in progress. The guards froze. Mark blinked, confused. What is that supposed to mean? Naomi looked at him steadily. It means every word you have said for the last 5 minutes is now company property. The words hung in the air like an invisible hammer. Company property? Mark repeated, his voice cracking between disbelief and irritation. The phones recording from the crowd caught every syllable. A nervous laugh rippled from somewhere near the reception desk, but it died quickly when Naomi turned her head. Her eyes were calm, unshaken, as if she were the only person who understood how this would end. "I'm not playing games," Mark said, trying to regain his footing. "You cannot just record people in here." Naomi's tone remained steady. "Actually, I can. This dealership is equipped with a compliance protocol that monitors for harassment, discrimination, and misconduct. You just activated it yourself." The words seemed to drain the color from his face. For the first time, Mark looked unsure. The guard who had been standing closest to Naomi stepped back slightly, hands dropping from his belt. "Sir," he said softly, "maybe we should call the regional office first." Mark glared at him. "Do not tell me how to run my store." He turned back to Naomi, still defiant. "You think a phone and a few fancy words make you someone important? You are trespassing, and you will leave now, or I will have you arrested." Naomi's expression did not change. "You are welcome to try," she said quietly. The room felt smaller now. The scent of rubber and new paint had vanished under the weight of tension. Customers who had pretended to browse cars were now openly watching. A mother held her young son close. A man in a suit whispered to his wife, "She does not look scared at all." Naomi took one slow step forward, her voice even. "What is your title, Mr. Henderson?" Mark blinked. "What?" "Your title," she repeated. "Tell me what you are." He hesitated, confused by the question. "I am the general manager of this dealership," he said, puffing out his chest. Naomi nodded. "Good, then you understand accountability. Because right now, the general manager of this dealership has violated 3 corporate ethics policies in under 10 minutes. Lena, the trainee who had been quietly filming near the back wall, whispered to herself, "She knows the policies by number." Naomi's phone chimed again. A woman's voice, crisp, efficient, unmistakably professional, came through the speaker. "Miss Reed, compliance system confirmation received. All audio logs are live. Would you like me to patch in corporate oversight?" The entire room went silent. Mark's eyebrows shot up. "Miss Reed," he repeated. "Wait, what did she just call you?" Naomi met his gaze. "You heard correctly." The second guard took a small step back, eyes widening. "Sir," he said under his breath, "I think she is someone higher up." Mark's throat tightened. He turned toward the watching customers, forcing a strained smile. "This is some kind of trick," he said loudly. "You are faking this." Naomi did not respond. She simply handed her phone to the nearest customer, a middle-aged woman who had been filming. "Please hold this steady," Naomi said gently. "You are about to witness something important." The woman nodded, trembling slightly as she held the phone upright. Naomi turned back to Mark. "You wanted to see proof that I belong here," she said softly. "So now you will." She pulled a slim black card from her wallet, its edges glinting under the fluorescent lights. It was engraved with her full name, Naomi Reed, Chief Executive Officer, Reed Automotive Group. The room inhaled as one. Even the air conditioning seemed to stop. Naomi laid the card flat on the nearest counter. "That is who I am," she said. And you, Mr. Henderson, have spent the last 10 minutes insulting the woman who signs your paycheck. For a long, suspended moment, no one spoke. Every sound in the dealership vanished, swallowed by disbelief. The gleam of Naomi's black CEO card sat on the counter like evidence in a courtroom. One customer gasped audibly. Another whispered, "Oh my God, she owns this place." The phone's recording kept rolling, small red lights blinking like witnesses that would never forget. Mark Henderson's mouth opened, but no sound came out. His confidence had drained from his body. The burgundy suit that once gave him authority now looked like a costume. This cannot be real," he stammered. "You are lying." Naomi tilted her head slightly, not as a threat, but as pity. "You have said enough lies for one day, Mr. Henderson." She turned her gaze toward the two guards. "You may both step back now. There is no threat here. You were misled." The first guard stepped away immediately, grateful for the release. The second hesitated, his hands still on his belt, before he finally took 2 steps back. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I did not know." "I know," Naomi replied gently, "but now you do." "Oh." Across the room, Lena lowered her phone, stunned but smiling through tears. She whispered to another employee, "I told you she was not just some customer." Mark's eyes darted between Naomi's calm face and the watching crowd. His voice trembled. "You set me up. You came in here pretending to be—" Naomi cut him off, her tone sharper now. "Pretending to be what, Mr. Henderson? Poor? Unworthy? Less than you?" He froze. Every eye in the showroom locked onto him. Even the humming of the fluorescent lights felt louder, exposing every ounce of his discomfort. Naomi stepped closer, her voice lower but firm enough to pierce through every corner of the room. "You were not set up," she continued. "You were revealed. The way you spoke to me is the same way you have spoken to countless others who walked through these doors. But today, your words met a microphone and a mirror." Mark's lips tightened. His face turned pale. "You cannot fire me," he muttered. "Only corporate can." Naomi almost smiled. "You are looking at corporate." Her phone vibrated once. She tapped the screen. The same professional voice from before spoke clearly for everyone to hear. "Corporate oversight connected. Termination file prepared. Confirm authorization, Ms. Reed." Naomi looked straight into Mark's eyes. "Confirm," she said. The voice replied, "Termination executed. Employee Mark Henderson removed from system access." "Hi." A chime echoed through the showroom computer at the reception desk. The screen flashed red. "Access denied." The watching customers gasped again. Naomi's tone softened, but her words cut deeper than anger ever could. "Power does not give you the right to humiliate people. It gives you the responsibility to protect them. You failed that test." Mark's shoulders sagged. He looked smaller now, almost swallowed by the room he once dominated. The guards kept their distance. Lena stepped closer to Naomi and said softly, "Thank you for coming here yourself." Naomi nodded once. Sometimes the truth has to walk through the front door before anyone believes it. She turned toward the crowd, her voice rising just enough for everyone to hear. "Let this moment remind you respect costs nothing, but losing it can cost everything." Applause began, slow at first, then building like a tide. The camera phones stayed up, capturing not just a firing, but a reckoning. Naomi Reed stood beneath the fluorescent lights, calm, resolute, and undeniable, the very image of power reclaimed. The sound of the crowd's applause rolled through the showroom like distant thunder. Some clapped quietly out of shock, others with conviction, but all of them understood that something irreversible had just happened. Naomi Reed did not smile. She stood still, letting the moment breathe, the way a conductor allows silence to complete a symphony. The first person to speak was Lena, the young trainee who had filmed everything from the back corner. "Miss Reed," she said softly, voice trembling, "I am so sorry. I tried to stop him earlier. He would not listen." Naomi turned toward her, calm but firm. "You did the right thing, Lena. You stood on the side of truth when it was not safe to do so. Never apologize for that." Lena's eyes filled with tears. "I only wish I could have done more." "You did enough," Naomi said, and placed a hand gently on the young woman's shoulder. "Sometimes all it takes is one person refusing to stay silent." Across the room, Mark Henderson still stood frozen in disbelief. His access badge blinked red against his chest, a small, pulsing symbol of finality. The guards were silent, unsure whether to offer help or distance. Naomi looked at them and nodded. "Gentlemen, please escort Mr. Henderson to the exit. He is no longer employed here." "Ho." They obeyed without hesitation. As they guided him away, Mark looked back over his shoulder. "You think you are proving a point?" he muttered bitterly. "You are just embarrassing everyone." Naomi's gaze did not waver. "The only thing that embarrasses this company," she said clearly, "is the behavior you just displayed." The automatic doors slid open, and the afternoon light flooded in. When the sound of Mark's footsteps finally faded, the showroom seemed to exhale. Customers looked at one another, unsure whether to leave or thank her. Naomi turned back to them, her voice soft but commanding. "If any of you witnessed this today," she said, "remember what you saw, not the humiliation but the accountability, because silence is how these patterns survive." The woman who had held Naomi's phone stepped forward, still recording. "People are already watching this live," she said quietly. "Thousands of views in the last few minutes." Naomi nodded once. "Good. Let them see it. Not because I want attention, but because this cannot keep happening behind closed doors." A man in a gray suit approached from the far side of the showroom. "Miss Reed," he said nervously, "I am the assistant general manager. I had no idea you were coming today." "That was the point," she replied. "I wanted to see how this place operates when no one is watching." He swallowed hard. "Would you like to shut down for the day?" "No," she said, looking around the room. "Leave it open. Let every customer see that accountability does not close for business." The tension began to dissolve. People returned to quiet conversation, though every voice carried new awareness. Naomi stood for a moment longer, eyes tracing the polished cars that lined the floor. Each one gleamed like a mirror, reflecting her in fragments, past and present, struggle and triumph. She spoke softly, more to herself than to anyone else. "My parents once told me that respect is not given, it is shown. Today, I showed it to myself." The camera phones caught that line, and it would echo later across social media, shared, quoted, stitched into 1,000 voices. But right now, inside the dealership, it was just a woman reclaiming a space that was always hers, standing in the quiet aftermath of justice served. Outside, sunlight poured through the dealership's tall glass panels, scattering reflections across the polished cars like fragments of fire. Naomi Reed stood beneath the glow, posture straight, eyes calm. The storm had passed, but the echoes still lingered. The customers had resumed browsing, yet their movements were slower now, more deliberate. Every glance carried the weight of what they had just witnessed. The assistant general manager lingered near the edge of the room, twisting his watch nervously. "Miss Reed," he said carefully, "corporate headquarters has already sent out an internal alert. They want a full report within the hour." Naomi nodded once. "They will have it. Include every second of recorded footage. I want transparency, not damage control." "Yes, ma'am," he replied. As he hurried away, Lena approached again, clutching her phone to her chest. "Miss Reed," she said hesitantly, "what will happen now?" Naomi turned toward her. "Now," she said, "we rebuild. We retrain every manager, every salesperson, every guard. I do not just want better service. I want a culture that knows the difference between confidence and cruelty." Lena nodded, her expression both proud and emotional. "I will help however I can." "You already have," Naomi said softly. A customer nearby, the woman who had streamed the entire event live, stepped forward with an apologetic look. "I hope you are not upset that I filmed it. I just could not let it happen quietly." Naomi smiled faintly. "Do not apologize. The world needs witnesses. Without them, people like Mark Henderson keep thinking no one is watching." The woman nodded, her voice trembling. "The video has over 10,000 views already." Naomi paused, letting the information settle. "Then let those 10,000 people see something bigger than anger. Let them see what dignity looks like when it does not flinch." Across the showroom, a little boy tugged his mother's sleeve. "Mom," he whispered, "that lady fired the mean man." The mother hushed him gently, but Naomi heard. She turned slightly and smiled at the boy, her voice warm. "It is not about firing, sweetheart. It is about teaching people how to treat others." The boy grinned shyly, hiding behind his mother's leg. Naomi walked toward the center of the room where the blue sports car still gleamed under the lights. Its hood reflected her like a mirror, unbroken and strong. She traced her hand lightly along its edge. "When I started this company," she said quietly, mostly to herself. I promised no customer would ever walk into one of our buildings and feel smaller than the cars we sell. The assistant manager returned, tablet in hand. Miss Reed, would you like to issue a statement to the press? Reporters are already calling. Naomi considered for a moment. Not yet. Let them talk. The footage will speak louder than any press release. He nodded. Understood. Naomi looked around one final time before walking toward the exit. The automatic doors parted slowly, and a rush of warm air met her face. She stopped at the threshold, turning slightly toward the crowd that still watched her in silence. Remember this day, she said clearly, not because someone lost their job, but because everyone here saw what accountability looks like in real time. Then she stepped outside into the sunlight, the doors sliding closed behind her, leaving a dealership forever changed. The sunlight outside felt sharper now, as if the world itself had turned its focus on her. Naomi Reed paused at the edge of the parking lot, inhaling the crisp autumn air. The hum of traffic from the nearby interstate mixed with the faint echo of voices still murmuring inside the dealership. She could feel the weight of every glance pressed against the glass behind her, the mixture of awe, shame, and quiet admiration. Her phone buzzed softly. A familiar voice came through her earpiece, Nia Thompson, her executive assistant. Miss Reed, I just saw the live footage. It is everywhere. The video has already crossed 100,000 views in under 15 minutes. Naomi exhaled, slow and steady. Let it run. The truth does not need editing. Nia hesitated. Reporters are asking for a statement. They are calling it a corporate reckoning. Naomi's tone was calm. Tell them it was not about revenge. It was about respect. As she walked toward her car, a sleek black sedan that reflected the afternoon sky, her reflection followed her, quiet but resolute. Each step clicked against the concrete like punctuation marks on a sentence she had been writing for decades. 20 years ago, she had walked out of a dealership in Birmingham with tears in her eyes and a promise in her heart. One day, I will build something that no one can take away. Now, standing in the glow of her own achievement, she realized she had done exactly that. Yet the work was far from finished. The car door opened with a soft mechanical chime. Naomi slid into the driver's seat, the interior cool and familiar. For a moment, she simply sat there, both present and distant, feeling the strange mixture of triumph and exhaustion. Justice, even when earned, carried its own kind of weight. The phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from the board chair, Carla Bennett. Naomi, Carla began, her voice brisk but supportive. I have seen the footage. You handled it with restraint and precision. Corporate compliance is drafting a public statement. Do you want to review it before release? Send it, Naomi said, but make sure it includes every uncomfortable truth. We do not hide behind apologies. We lead with accountability. Carla chuckled softly. That is exactly why you run this company. Naomi glanced at the rearview mirror. Inside, through the showroom windows, she could still see customers moving cautiously, the rhythm of business slowly resuming. Carla, she said, her voice low, this was not just one man's mistake. It is a mirror. I want a full audit on hiring practices, sales behavior, and internal training. Every dealership under Reed Automotive. Carla paused. All of them? All of them, Naomi replied. Every single one. We are not going to fix what we cannot face. Understood, Carla said. I will start the process immediately. The call ended, and Naomi sat in silence for a moment longer. She looked at her reflection in the windshield, steady eyes, calm posture, no trace of rage, just resolve. As she pulled the car into gear, she murmured to herself, change does not start with noise. It starts when silence decides to speak. The engine purred to life, and the car glided away from the curb, leaving behind a building that would never see the world the same way again. The drive across downtown Atlanta was quiet except for the steady hum of the engine. Naomi Reed kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting against the center console, her mind still replaying the scene inside the dealership. Every insult, every glance, every breath from that 10-minute encounter had etched itself into memory. Yet what lingered most was not anger, but clarity. She had seen the truth with her own eyes, stripped of reports and filtered updates. Her phone lit up again. A notification from the company's internal network flashed across the dashboard screen. Dealership footage trending. Global reach. 1 million views. She almost smiled. Not out of pride, but out of recognition that exposure was sometimes the most powerful teacher. Nia's voice returned through the speaker system. Miss Reed, corporate legal just confirmed that Mark Henderson's termination and the compliance logs are airtight. No appeal can be filed. Good, Naomi said evenly. I do not want punishment. I want precedent. Nia hesitated. There is more. Other employees from different branches are reaching out. They are sharing their own experiences. Some of the messages are hard to read. Naomi's jaw tightened. Forward every one of them to me. No redactions. Yes, ma'am, Nia replied softly. The city skyline glimmered ahead, glass towers catching the afternoon light. Naomi slowed as she approached a red light. Outside her window, a young man in a faded uniform crossed the street, pushing a cart stacked with windshield wipers. For a second, their eyes met. He gave a small nod, the kind of silent acknowledgement that passes between people who understand struggle without a word spoken. Naomi nodded back. When the light turned green, she pressed the accelerator, the car gliding forward. Nia, she said into the speaker, schedule a town hall for next week. Every manager, every team leader, every regional director, I will speak to them directly. I will handle it, Nia replied. Do you want it live streamed? Yes, Naomi said. If this company is going to change, the whole world should see it happen. As the dealership signs faded behind her, Naomi thought of her parents again, her father, a mechanic who spent his life fixing engines but was never trusted to sell them. Her mother, who used to say, "The world will always test your worth. Do not hand them the answer." Her voice softened. Mom, I finally passed the test, she whispered to herself. The car turned onto a quieter road lined with tall oaks. The noise of the city faded, replaced by the rhythmic thrum of tires against asphalt. She tapped a button on her console, opening the company app. The screen displayed a live feed of comments pouring in from employees across the nation. Some were angry, some apologetic, some inspired. One message caught her eye. Thank you for showing us that silence can be powerful when it stands for justice. Naomi read it twice, then closed the screen. That is the lesson, she murmured. Dignity does not need to shout. It just needs to stand. The skyline of her corporate headquarters appeared in the distance, tall, silver, and glinting in the Sunday. Naomi's reflection merged with it in the windshield, a woman once underestimated, now unstoppable. She gripped the wheel a little tighter, ready for the next battle waiting inside those mirrored walls. The glass tower of Reed Automotive headquarters shimmered like a pillar of light as Naomi Reed's car approached the private entrance. The automatic gates opened with a smooth, mechanical hum, and security cameras pivoted subtly to follow her vehicle. She parked in her reserved spot, stepped out, and inhaled deeply. The scent of polished stone and warm asphalt mixed with the faint hum of distant traffic. The world outside was buzzing about what had happened, but inside, another storm was already forming. As Naomi walked through the lobby, employees paused mid-conversation. Some whispered, others stared, but every pair of eyes carried the same expression, respect wrapped in astonishment. A receptionist spoke softly into her headset. Miss Reed is on site. The murmur rippled through the building. She entered the elevator, pressed the button for the top floor, and watched the numbers climb. Her reflection stared back from the mirrored walls, calm but unyielding. For years, she had built this company from the ground up, carving it into an empire of luxury and innovation. Yet she knew that beneath every polished surface, the same old biases still hid like rust beneath paint. The elevator chimed. The doors opened into the executive corridor where Carla Bennett, the board chair, stood waiting with a tablet in hand. Naomi, Carla said, walking quickly to her, the video has gone global. It is on every major network. Even morning talk shows are covering it. Public sentiment is overwhelmingly on your side. Naomi gave a slow nod. Then it means people are ready to have the conversation we have avoided for too long. Carla's tone softened. I know you wanted this to stay an internal test, but now it is a public moment. You have to decide what to do with it. Naomi stepped into her office, a panoramic space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The afternoon sun cast long lines of gold across her desk. We do not bury moments like this, she said, setting her phone down. We use them. Carla hesitated. Use them how? By forcing change, Naomi replied. We start with leadership. Every regional head will attend the town hall in person, not by video call. I want to look every one of them in the eye when I say this company will no longer tolerate quiet prejudice disguised as policy. Carla nodded slowly. And the media? Naomi looked out over the skyline. I will speak publicly after the town hall. I want the world to see that accountability is not a press stunt, it is a standard." The intercom on her desk chimed softly. "Miss Reed," Nia's voice said, "your legal and communications teams are assembled in conference room 2. They are waiting for direction." Naomi straightened her jacket. "Tell them to start with the truth," she said. "No rewriting, no soft language. We are not crafting an apology. We are announcing a change." As she walked down the hallway toward the conference room, Carla followed silently behind. Every employee who passed stepped aside, not out of fear, but out of acknowledgement. Naomi's heels struck the marble floor in deliberate rhythm, steady, precise, unhurried. She paused at the door, hand on the handle. "Carla," she said quietly, "this is not about one man in one dealership. This is about the culture that let him believe he could say those words and still keep his job." Carla met her gaze. "Then let us make sure no one ever thinks that again." Naomi opened the door and stepped inside. The room fell silent. The meeting was about to begin, but what waited beyond it would reach far beyond the walls of Reed Automotive into every boardroom, every dealership, every heart that still underestimated a woman like her. The conference room was silent when Naomi Reed entered. The long glass table reflected her image and the tense faces of the executives seated around it. Papers rustled faintly, the only sound in a space heavy with expectation. She placed her phone face down on the table and looked at each person in turn. "You all saw the footage," she began, her tone measured. "You know what was said, and you know what it revealed." No one spoke. A few shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Naomi continued. "For years, we have celebrated success in numbers, sales, expansion, profit margins. But what is the value of growth if it grows over people's dignity?" She paused, letting the words settle. "We are not just selling cars. We are shaping the kind of company that decides who belongs and who does not." One executive cleared his throat. "Miss Reed, should we release a statement emphasizing diversity?" Naomi's eyes sharpened. "No, we do not emphasize diversity. We embody it. From this moment forward, every dealership will undergo new training. Every manager will be evaluated not just on sales, but on respect." Carla watched her quietly, pride flickering behind her composed expression. Naomi placed both hands on the table. "We cannot undo what was said, but we can make sure the next person who walks into one of our showrooms, no matter their color, their clothes, or their income, is treated with the dignity that money can never buy." The room stayed silent, but the silence felt different now. It was not fear, it was awakening. When the meeting ended, the executives filed out slowly, each carrying the weight of what had just been said. Naomi Reed remained standing at the head of the table, her reflection framed by the city lights now beginning to glow against the evening sky. Carla Bennett lingered behind, watching her friend with quiet respect. "You just changed the tone of this company forever," Carla said softly. Naomi looked at her, expression steady. "The tone was always there. I am just making sure people finally hear it." Her phone buzzed once more. A message from Nia appeared on the screen. "Mark Henderson has left the property. Exit confirmed. Local news outlets are waiting for comment." Naomi typed back a single line. "Let them wait. Justice does not need to rush." Carla smiled faintly. "You know, Naomi, most CEOs would have buried this story by now." Naomi turned toward the window. "That is why most stories like this keep repeating. You cannot fix what you refuse to face." Below, traffic moved like veins of light through the city. Somewhere down there, another woman was being judged for how she looked, another voice being dismissed before it was heard. Naomi exhaled slowly. "We are not just building cars," she said. "We are building trust, and that takes more than money. It takes courage." Carla nodded. "And you have never been short on that?" Naomi allowed herself a small smile. "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to stand anyway." Ugh. Night settled over Atlanta like a velvet curtain, the city's lights glimmering against the glass walls of Reed Automotive headquarters. Naomi Reed stood alone in her office, the skyline stretching out before her, a tapestry of progress, beauty, and unfinished work. The hum of the city below sounded almost like applause fading into distance. Her reflection stared back from the window, strong and still. Every scar, every silence, every time she had been underestimated had led to this moment. The world was watching her now, not because she demanded attention, but because she had forced truth into the light. Her phone buzzed one last time. It was a message from Lena, the trainee who had stood up for her earlier that day. "Thank you for showing us how power should look." Naomi read the words slowly, her eyes softening. She turned toward the empty conference table, the place where so many decisions had been made, both right and wrong. "This is not the end," she whispered. "It is the beginning." Naomi picked up her jacket and walked toward the elevator. As the doors slid open, her reflection split across the mirrored surface, one side the woman who had been doubted, the other the leader who no longer asked permission to belong. The elevator descended smoothly, each floor passing like a heartbeat. When the doors opened to the quiet lobby, the guard at the desk stood and nodded respectfully. Naomi returned the nod, her voice calm and clear. "Tell them," she said, "I do not need to film justice. I am the result of it." Then she stepped into the night, her heels striking the marble with finality, the sound echoing like truth itself.